Princess Zara-Eth stood at the observation deck of the royal palace, her silver skin shimmering under the triple suns of Kepler 442b. Her four arms were crossed in a gesture of deep thought as she watched the human delegation's ship land on the crystalline platform below. The marriage alliance had been her father's idea, a way to secure peace with the strange, soft creatures from Earth who had somehow managed to reach the stars despite their obvious physical limitations. "Such fragile beings," she murmured to herself, her violet eyes narrowing. Humans had only 2 arms, couldn't see in the ultraviolet spectrum, and their skin was so thin it could be pierced by the simplest thorns. How they had survived long enough to develop space travel was beyond her understanding. The ceremony had been swift, conducted through translators and filled with the strange customs of diplomatic necessity. Her new husband, Marcus Chen, stood barely to her shoulder, another sign of human weakness. During the feast, she had watched him struggle with the traditional Keplerian foods, his single stomach clearly unable to process the complex proteins her people thrived on. He had smiled through it all, those strange human expressions that seemed to convey so many emotions with such small facial movements. "Your Highness," Marcus had said after the ceremony, his voice calm despite the chaos around them. "I know this arrangement wasn't your choice. I promised to stay out of your way and cause no trouble for your people." Zara-Eth had almost pitied him then. The poor creature probably thought he could hide in some corner of the palace and live quietly. He didn't understand that as her consort, he would be tested, challenged, and likely humiliated by every noble who wanted to prove human inferiority. The first test came sooner than expected. 3 days after the wedding, Lord Krextor, a massive warrior from the southern provinces, arrived at court. His reputation as a fighter was legendary. He had never lost a combat trial in 40 solar cycles. His 6 arms could wield weapons that would crush a human's bones like dried leaves. "I challenge the human to ritual combat," Krextor announced in the Great Hall, his voice booming across the crystal walls. "Let us see if Earth sends us warriors or pets." Zara-Eth felt a strange tightness in her chest. She could refuse the challenge on Marcus's behalf, but that would mark both of them as cowards forever. She looked at her human husband, expecting to see fear in those brown eyes. Instead, Marcus was studying Krextor with an expression she couldn't quite understand. "I accept," Marcus said simply, standing from his chair with fluid grace. The court gasped. Even Zara-Eth's father, the Emperor, leaned forward in surprise. No one had expected the human to accept certain death so readily. "You don't have to do this," Zara-Eth whispered urgently. "I can—" "It's all right," Marcus interrupted gently. "What are the rules?" Krextor laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "No energy weapons, no armor, fight until submission or death. You may choose any primitive weapon from the arena." The arena was a vast circular chamber, its floor covered in the traditional blue sand of ritual combat. Thousands of Keplerians filled the viewing platforms, their excited chittering creating a wave of sound that would have deafened most species. Marcus walked to the weapon racks, ignoring the massive warhammers and 6-handed swords designed for Keplerian physiology. Instead, he picked up a simple metal staff, testing its weight and balance. The crowd laughed, even children trained with more impressive weapons. Krextor chose a brutal combination, 4 curved blades and 2 spiked clubs, one for each powerful arm. He spun them in a display of skill that had won him hundreds of victories. "Last chance to beg for mercy, human." Marcus said nothing. He simply shifted his stance, holding the staff in a way Zara-Eth had never seen before. His entire demeanor changed. The gentle diplomat vanished, replaced by something else entirely. The signal crystal flashed, and Krextor charged with the force of a landslide. His weapons created a deadly web of metal as all 6 arms attacked simultaneously. The crowd expected to see human blood paint the sand in seconds. But Marcus wasn't there. He had moved, not with the desperate scramble of prey, but with calculated precision. The staff whirled, deflecting one blade while his body twisted away from another. His movements were economical, using exactly as much energy as needed and no more. Krextor's assault intensified, his attacks becoming a blur of motion that should have been impossible to track with human eyes. But Marcus seemed to know where each strike would land before it arrived. The staff became an extension of his body, creating a defensive sphere that Krextor couldn't penetrate. "Impossible," someone whispered in the crowd. Then Marcus shifted from defense to offense. The staff struck out like a serpent, hitting pressure points on Krextor's lower arms with surgical precision. Two weapons clattered to the sand as the nerves went temporarily dead. Before the warrior could adjust, Marcus had rolled under his guard, the staff sweeping his legs. The massive Keplerian crashed down, and suddenly the human was on his back. The staff pressed against his throat in a position that would crush his windpipe with the slightest pressure. "Yield," Marcus said calmly, not even breathing hard. The arena fell silent. Krextor, the undefeated champion, lay helpless beneath a creature half his size with a fraction of his strength. After a long moment, he tapped the sand in the traditional gesture of surrender. Marcus immediately stepped back, offering his hand to help the warrior up. "You fight with great skill," he said respectfully. "It was an honor to face you." Krextor stared at the offered hand, then slowly took it. "How?" he asked simply. "Humans have fought each other for millions of years," Marcus explained. "We've had to learn to defeat opponents stronger than ourselves. It's not about power. It's about understanding physics, anatomy, and psychology. Your species developed strength. Mine developed technique." Zaraith found herself reevaluating everything she thought she knew about humans. That night, she approached Marcus in their shared quarters, curiosity overcoming her usual aloof manner. "You could have killed him," she said. "Yes," Marcus agreed, setting down the book he had been reading. "But why would I? He was testing me, not trying to murder me." "Proportional response is important. The way you fought, is that common among humans?" Marcus smiled slightly. "More common than you might think. Every human child learns some form of self-defense. We're not the strongest species or the fastest or the toughest, but we're very, very good at surviving." Over the following weeks, more challenges came. Noble after noble tried to prove human weakness, and each time Marcus revealed another facet of human capability. When challenged to a test of endurance in the desert, he walked for 3 days without stopping, his body somehow regulating temperature and conserving water in ways that baffled Keplerian physicians. When a scholar tried to humiliate him with complex mathematics, Marcus solved equations in his head that required computers for most species. "How do you do it?" Zaraith asked one evening as they shared a meal. She had started joining him more often, drawn by a curiosity she couldn't quite name. "Do what?" Marcus asked, trying another bite of Keplerian fruit. His tolerance for their food had improved remarkably. "Adapt so quickly. Learn so fast. It's like you become whatever you need to be." "That's exactly what we do," Marcus said thoughtfully. "Humans are generalists. We might not be the best at any one thing, but we can become good at almost anything. It's our evolutionary advantage." A month after the wedding, the real test arrived. Raiders from the Void clans attacked a mining colony on the system's edge. These weren't honor-bound warriors following rules. They were pirates who took what they wanted and left death in their wake. The colony's distress signal reached the palace in the middle of the night. Zaraith's father assembled his war council immediately. The discussion was grim. The nearest military fleet was days away, and the colony would be stripped bare long before help arrived. The raiders had jammed long-range communications and disabled the colony's defensive grid. It seemed hopeless. "I'll go," Marcus said from the doorway. He had apparently been listening from the hall. The War Council turned to stare at him. Several generals laughed openly. "This isn't a ritual combat, human," one sneered. "These are killers with energy weapons and war suits. What could you possibly do?" "I can try," Marcus said simply. "Give me a small ship and any volunteers willing to come. If we fail, you lose nothing but one human, and whoever is brave enough to join me." Zaraith stood before she realized she was moving. "I'll go with him." The council erupted in protests, but she silenced them with a gesture. "My decision is made. Who else has the courage to join us?" In the end, only 5 warriors volunteered, including a surprised Krextor. "I owe you a debt," he told Marcus, "and I'm curious to see how humans fight when lives are at stake." The journey to the colony took 18 hours in a fast courier ship. During the flight, Marcus outlined his plan. It was insane. A direct assault was suicide, and they all knew it. But as he explained his strategy, using human guerrilla tactics adapted for the situation, the warriors began to see possibilities. "We don't fight their strength," Marcus explained, sketching diagrams on a tactical display. "We fight their weaknesses. Raiders are bullies. They expect victims, not resistance. We'll use that against them." They approached the colony under cover of debris from destroyed ore haulers, their ship powered down to avoid detection. Through the viewports, they could see the raider vessels, 3 heavily armed corvettes surrounding the colony like predators over a kill. "Phase 1, Marcus whispered into his comm unit. They split into 3 teams. Marcus led his pair through maintenance shafts he had identified from old colony blueprints, moving through spaces the larger raiders couldn't fit. His knowledge of human architecture, apparently most colonies followed similar patterns, let him navigate paths the raiders hadn't even considered. Zaraith watched him work with growing amazement. He had somehow procured explosives from their ship's mining charges, repurposing them into weapons. His hands moved with practiced efficiency as he set charges on critical systems. The first explosion took out the raiders' communication array. The second disabled their shield generators. By the time they realized they were under attack, Marcus had already moved to Phase 2. "Now we make them afraid," he said with a cold smile that sent chills down Zaraith's spine. What followed was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Marcus used the colony's own systems against the raiders, lights flickering in patterns that disoriented them, environmental controls creating pockets of extreme heat and cold, emergency broadcasts playing recordings that made it sound like a full military fleet had arrived. The raiders, used to easy victories against terrified colonists, began to panic. They fired at shadows, wasted ammunition on sensor ghosts Marcus created, and slowly turned from predators into prey. "How do you know they'll react this way?" Zaraith asked, as they watched raiders stumble through a corridor, firing at nothing. "Because fear is universal," Marcus replied, "and humans have been mastering it since we came down from the trees. We know what scares us, so we know what scares others." The tide turned completely when Marcus revealed his final trick. He had noticed something about the raider leader, a cybernetic implant common among criminals who dealt with multiple species. It was supposed to help with translations, but Marcus had found another use for it. Using his personal device and some truly inspired programming, he hacked the implant and fed false information directly into the leader's brain. Suddenly, the raider commander was seeing his own men as enemies, hearing threats in every word, feeling attacks that weren't there. Within minutes, the raider force turned on itself in confused panic. The colonists, inspired by the chaos, rose up with mining tools and industrial equipment. What had started as a certain massacre became a rout. The 3 raider corvettes fled, leaving behind most of their ground forces who quickly surrendered. The colony was saved with only minor casualties among the defenders. As they secured the last prisoners, Krextor approached Marcus with something approaching awe. I've fought in 30 campaigns, the warrior said slowly. I've never seen tactics like that. You turned their minds against them. Humans have a saying, Marcus replied, checking on wounded colonists with gentle hands that had just orchestrated a battle. The mind is the ultimate weapon. Everything else is just tools. During the flight back to the palace, Zara-Ith found herself sitting next to her human husband, seeing him truly for the first time. The soft, fragile creature she had pitied was gone, or rather, she realized it had never existed. It was a mask, a deliberate projection that let others underestimate him. "You're not what you seem," she said quietly. Marcus looked at her with those deceptively simple brown eyes. "Neither are you, Princess. You came with me when you didn't have to. You fought beside me when you could have stayed safe. That tells me everything I need to know about who you really are." For the first time since their marriage, Zara-Ith smiled genuinely at him. "Perhaps this alliance will be more interesting than I thought." "Oh, Princess." Marcus smiled back, and there was something in that expression that made her hearts beat faster. "You have no idea what humans are capable of. This was just the beginning." As their ship approached the palace, Zara-Ith realized that her father had been wiser than anyone knew. He hadn't just secured an alliance with Earth, he had brought one of their warriors into the royal family. And if Marcus was an example of what humans could do, the galaxy was about to become a very different place. The news of the colony's rescue spread across the system within hours. The footage of a single human and 6 Keplerians defeating an entire raider fleet became legend. But in the palace, in the quiet of their chambers, Zara-Ith asked the question that had been burning in her mind. "Marcus, when you accepted Krextor's challenge, were you ever actually in danger?" Her husband considered the question carefully. "There's always danger in combat. But honestly, I've faced worse in human military training. Your warriors are strong, but they're used to fighting with honor and rules. Humans, we learn to fight without those limitations. It makes us dangerous in ways most species don't expect." "Show me," Zara-Ith said suddenly. "Teach me how humans fight, how humans think." Marcus studied her for a long moment. "Are you sure? Once you see the universe through human eyes, you can't go back. We see threats everywhere, opportunities in chaos, weapons in everyday objects. It's not a comfortable way to live." "I'm sure," she said firmly. "If I'm going to be married to a human, I should understand what that means." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then we'll start tomorrow. But remember, human strength isn't in our bodies. It's in our ability to adapt, to learn, to turn any situation to our advantage. We're not the apex predators of Earth because we're the strongest. We're apex predators because we're the smartest, the most stubborn, and the most willing to do whatever it takes to survive." That night, as the triple suns set over the crystal spires of the palace, Zara-Ith lay awake thinking. She had thought humans were weak because they lacked natural weapons, armor, or size. But now she understood the truth. Humans were weapons. Every last one of them. And she was married to one. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, for the first time since the alliance was announced, she felt genuinely safe. Because if there was one thing the galaxy was about to learn, it was that having a human on your side was the ultimate advantage. The raiders who escaped would spread the story. Other species would hear about the human who turned predators into prey with nothing but his mind and simple tools. And slowly, the galaxy would begin to understand what Earth's children were truly capable of. But that was tomorrow's concern. Tonight, Zara-Ith had a husband to understand, and a new way of seeing the universe to learn. The age of human expansion had begun, not with fleets of warships, but with a single man showing the galaxy that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one that looks like prey. The training began at dawn. in a private courtyard deep within the palace grounds. Zara Eth arrived expecting combat drills and weapon practice. Instead, she found Marcus sitting cross-legged on the ground, eyes closed, breathing steadily. "Are we meditating?" she asked, confused. "I thought you were teaching me to fight." "I am." Marcus opened one eye. "First lesson. Humans fight with our minds before our bodies. Sit. Copy my breathing." For the next hour, he taught her breathing techniques that seemed painfully simple. But as she followed his instructions, she noticed changes. Her hearts began to beat in synchronized rhythm. Her usual restless energy calmed into something more focused. "Humans have a stress response system," Marcus explained, still in that meditative position. "We can trigger it consciously. Adrenaline, enhanced reflexes, reduced pain response. But we can also control it, channel it. Most species let their biology control them. Humans learn to control our biology." He stood suddenly, moving from complete stillness to motion so quickly that Zara Ith's eyes almost couldn't track it. "Now attack me." "What?" "Attack me. Use all 4 arms, don't hold back." Zara Ith hesitated, then struck with her upper right arm. Marcus didn't block. He simply wasn't there when her fist arrived. She spun, using her lower arms to sweep where he should have dodged, but again hit only air. "You're fighting where I am," Marcus said from behind her. "Humans fight where our opponent will be. We read micro-expressions, muscle tension, weight distribution. Your species is stronger, but you telegraph every move." For the next 3 hours, he dissected every aspect of Keplerian combat, showing her weaknesses she never knew existed. But more importantly, he taught her to see through human eyes, to spot opportunities in every movement, weapons in every object, advantages in every seeming disadvantage. Word of their training sessions spread. Within a week, other palace guards were quietly requesting permission to observe. Within a month, what had started as private lessons became an informal school of human tactical philosophy. But the real change came from an unexpected source. The Emperor summoned Marcus to a private meeting, dismissing even his personal guards. Zara Ith watched from an alcove. Her father didn't know she was there, but Marcus did. He had winked at her hiding spot on his way in. "I need to know something," the Emperor began without preamble. "My analysts have been studying your rescue of the colony. The tactics you used, are they standard human military doctrine?" "No, Your Majesty," Marcus replied honestly. "Those were largely improvised based on the situation." The Emperor's 4 eyes widened. "Improvised? You defeated a force 10 times your size with improvised tactics?" "Humans are very good at improvisation," Marcus said. "We call it thinking outside the box. When you're not the strongest species on your planet, you learn to be creative or you die." "Show me," the Emperor commanded, gesturing to a tactical display. "Here's a scenario my generals consider unwinnable. An enemy fleet of superior numbers has blockaded a system. Traditional tactics demand a larger fleet to break through. What would humans do?" Marcus studied the display for less than a minute. "We wouldn't fight the fleet at all. We'd go around it." "Impossible. The only hyperspace routes. Who says we need hyperspace?" Marcus began manipulating the display, showing calculations that made the Emperor lean forward. "Humans developed something called a gravity slingshot maneuver. Use the gravity wells of planets to accelerate small ships to near-light speed. It would take longer, but you could slip an entire covert force past their blockade using conventional drives. While they're watching the hyperspace lanes, your forces are already behind them." The Emperor stared at the display, then at Marcus. "My generals have studied warfare for centuries. None of them thought of this. Because they think in 3 dimensions, Marcus explained. Humans think in 4: space, time, and psychology. We don't just ask, can we win? We ask, how can we change the rules so winning becomes possible? That night, Zara Ith confronted her father. You're planning something. This isn't just about our marriage alliance anymore. The Emperor regarded his daughter with ancient eyes. The hegemony grows stronger every cycle. Traditional warfare has failed to stop their expansion. But your husband, he thinks differently. If humans can teach us their way of war, you want to weaponize human thinking, Zara-Ith realized. Is that wrong? Her father asked. Your husband turned raiders into victims with nothing but his mind. Imagine what an army trained in human tactics could do. Zara-Ith thought of her training sessions, how Marcus had systematically dismantled every assumption she had about combat. Father, I don't think you understand what you're asking for. Human thinking isn't just tactics, it's a complete paradigm shift. They see the universe as a puzzle to be solved, not a hierarchy to be climbed. Good, the Emperor said firmly. Perhaps it's time we solved some puzzles. The change started small. Marcus was officially appointed as strategic consultant to the military, a title that meant nothing and everything. He began teaching classes on asymmetric warfare, psychological operations, and what he called creative problem-solving. The Keplerian military, hidebound by tradition, resisted at first, until the War Games. It was supposed to be a standard exercise, the traditional forces against a small unit trained in human tactics. The traditional forces had every advantage: numbers, firepower, and defensive positions. The exercise was scheduled to last 3 days. It ended in 6 hours. The human-trained unit didn't attack the fortifications. They didn't engage in glorious battle. Instead, they poisoned the water supply with a harmless but highly visible dye, making the defenders think they were under biological attack. While the fortress panicked, the unit infiltrated disguised as medics, disabled the command structure from within, and had the entire base surrendered before lunch. This isn't warfare, General Vextar protested at the review. It's efficient, Marcus supplied calmly. Humans have a saying, if you find yourself in a fair fight, you've already made a mistake. But the real test came sooner than anyone expected. The hegemony, the expansionist empire that had been slowly conquering system after system, finally turned their attention to Kepler 442b. Their ambassador arrived with the usual demands: submit or be destroyed. They gave the Emperor 1 week to decide. In the War Council, despair was thick. The hegemony had never lost a war. Their fleets were massive, their technology advanced, their warriors bred for combat over millennia. How many ships do they have? Marcus asked quietly. 300 in the initial fleet, General Vextar reported glumly. We have 60. Perfect, Marcus smiled. We're outnumbered 5-1. In human military history, those are Tuesday odds. The council stared at him. Even Zara-Ith wondered if her husband had lost his mind. You can't be serious, someone protested. Deadly serious. Marcus stood, moving to the tactical display. The hegemony wins through overwhelming force and intimidation. They've never faced an opponent who refuses to play by their rules. So we don't. Over the next 6 days, Marcus orchestrated something that military historians would later call the insanity gambit. Instead of preparing defenses, he had the entire fleet disperse and hide. Instead of negotiations, he sent gift baskets to the hegemony ambassador. Instead of showing fear, he organized a massive celebration in the capital. Have humans gone mad? The ambassador demanded, storming into the throne room on the 6th day. Your fleet has scattered. Your defenses are down. You're having parties while doom approaches. Oh, that, Marcus said casually from his position beside Zara-Ith. We're celebrating our victory. Victory? You haven't even fought. Haven't we? Marcus smiled, and there was something in that expression that made the ambassador step back. Tell me, ambassador, what does the hegemony fear most? We fear nothing. Wrong answer. You fear the unknown. You fear unpredictability. You fear an enemy you can't understand. Marcus stood, walking slowly toward the ambassador. For 6 days, you've been trying to figure out our strategy. Your analysts are going mad trying to understand why we're not afraid. Your generals are paranoid, wondering what trap we've set. Your leaders are asking themselves, what do the humans know that we don't? The ambassador's scales flickered, a sign of nervousness. You're bluffing. You have nothing. Do I? Marcus pulled out a small device. This is a quantum communicator, very rare, very expensive. Do you know what's interesting about quantum entanglement? It works instantaneously across any distance. No lag, no way to jam it. He pressed a button. Nothing visible happened. Right now, Marcus continued conversationally, 60 Keplerian ships just received a signal. They're not at the edge of the system where your scouts are looking. They're already in your territory, hidden in the asteroid belts around your supply bases, your fuel depots, your communication relays. Funny thing about focusing all your forces on an invasion, it leaves your rear completely exposed. The ambassador's translator crackled. Impossible! We would have detected... Would you? Humans invented something called stealth technology centuries ago. We've gotten very good at it. Your scouts are looking for energy signatures from antimatter drives. But what if our ships aren't using antimatter? What if they're running on chemical rockets, primitive but undetectable? What if they've been drifting for days, playing dead, waiting for my signal? The silence in the throne room was deafening. Here's what's going to happen, Marcus continued. Your fleet is going to receive reports of simultaneous attacks on 17 critical installations. Oh, they're not destroyed. We're not barbarians, but they're disabled. No supplies, no fuel, no communications. Your mighty fleet is now stranded in hostile space with no way home and no way to call for help. You're lying, the ambassador whispered. Marcus checked his device. 3, 2, 1. The ambassador's personal communicator erupted in alarms. Reports flooded in, exactly as Marcus had predicted. 17 facilities, all crippled within seconds of each other. Now, Marcus said pleasantly, let's discuss terms. You can surrender, and we'll provide safe passage home for your fleet. Or you can try to fight with no supplies, no fuel, and no backup. Your choice. The ambassador looked at the Emperor, at Zaraith, at Marcus. How? He finally asked. Humans have a saying. Zaraith spoke for the first time, moving to stand beside her husband. Amateurs study tactics. Professionals study logistics. My husband is very professional. The hegemony fleet surrendered without firing a shot. For the first time in their history, they had been defeated not by superior force, but by superior thinking. The galaxy took notice. But in the palace that night, as victory celebrations rang through the streets, Zaraith found Marcus on their balcony, staring at the stars with a troubled expression. You should be celebrating, she said, wrapping her arms around him. You just defeated the most feared empire in the galaxy. That's what worries me, Marcus sighed. It was too easy. The hegemony will adapt, learn from this, and they're not the only threat out there. We've shown the galaxy what humans can do. Some will want to be our allies. Others will see us as the new threat, Zaraith finished. The species that defeats empires with tricks and clever plans. Chess, Marcus said suddenly. Sorry? It's a human game. Ancient. 2 players, limited pieces, simple rules. But the complexity that emerges from those simple rules is staggering. Humans have been playing it for over 1,000 years, and we still haven't mastered it. He turned to her. That's what this is. We just made our opening move. Now the entire galaxy knows we're playing. A month later, the first assassination attempt came. Marcus was teaching a class on guerrilla warfare when a student, later revealed to be a hegemony sleeper agent, attacked with a monomolecular blade. The strike should have bisected him. Instead, Marcus rolled with the attack, using the assassin's momentum against them. But what shocked the witnesses wasn't his survival. It was what happened next. Instead of killing the assassin, Marcus disabled them and immediately began analyzing the attack out loud, turning it into a teaching moment. "Notice the angle of approach," he said calmly, holding the squirming assassin in a lock. "Classic hegemony close combat doctrine. But see the footwork? Trained on a higher gravity world. That tells us something about their deep cover program." By the time security arrived, he had extracted more intelligence from the failed attack than most interrogations would have yielded. The assassin, thoroughly demoralized at being turned into a lecture prop, confessed everything. "How are you so calm?" Krextor asked later. "They tried to kill you." "I've been expecting it," Marcus shrugged. "Humans assume everyone wants to kill us. We're usually right. The trick is making it more trouble than it's worth." More attempts followed. Poison that Marcus detected by smell. Bombs that he found through pattern analysis. A sniper that he avoided by never taking the same route twice. Each failure only enhanced his reputation. "It's like he sees the future," one frustrated conspirator was overheard saying. "Not the future," Zaraith corrected when she heard the rumor. "He sees possibilities. All of them. Then he prepares for the worst while hoping for the best. It's exhausting living with him sometimes." But she smiled when she said it, because for all his paranoia and preparation, Marcus remained gentle with her. He brought her flowers from Earth's imported garden. He learned to cook Keplerian dishes that actually tasted good. He made her laugh with stories of human absurdity. "You're not what I expected from a warrior species," she told him one night. "That's because we're not a warrior species," Marcus replied. "We're a survivor species. There's a difference. Warriors live for battle. Survivors do whatever it takes to see tomorrow, whether that's fighting, running, or making friends. Humans are very good at making friends when we need to." The proof came during the confluence, a gathering of 17 species to discuss the changing balance of power. Many came expecting to condemn Earth's dishonorable tactics. They left as allies. Marcus didn't convince them with threats or military might. Instead, he cooked them dinner. "Food," he explained to the baffled diplomats, "is the universal language. Every species eats. Every culture has comfort foods. Share a meal and you're not enemies anymore. You're just people eating together." He prepared dishes from Earth, adapted for different physiologies. He told stories of human history, not the victories, but the failures. How humans had nearly destroyed themselves countless times and learned from each mistake. How they had gone from cave dwellers to space travelers not through superiority, but through stubborn refusal to give up. "We're not special," Marcus said, serving what he called pizza to a dozen species. "We're not stronger or smarter or better than anyone here. We're just very, very persistent. And we'd rather be friends than enemies because enemies are exhausting." By the end of the night, half the delegates were asking for recipes. The other half were negotiating trade agreements. The feared human warrior had conquered them with cheese and good conversation. "How do you do it?" the Altarian ambassador asked. "How do you go from defeating the hegemony to making us laugh over dinner?" "Because they're both survival strategies," Marcus replied. "Sometimes survival means fighting. Sometimes it means making pizza. Humans are good at both." Zaraith watched her husband work the room, seeing how he shifted between roles, warrior, diplomat, chef, storyteller, as naturally as breathing. This was human power, she realized. Not strength or technology, but adaptability, taken to an art form. Later, as they walked back to their quarters, she asked, "Was any of that real? The friendly host routine?" Marcus considered. All of it was real. That's what makes humans dangerous. We don't pretend to be things. We become them. I genuinely wanted those people to enjoy dinner. I also genuinely cataloged 17 ways to kill each of them if needed. Both states exist simultaneously. That's terrifying, Zara said. Yes, Marcus agreed. But it's also why we make such good friends. A human ally is someone who will cook you dinner, laugh at your jokes, and then burn down entire star systems to keep you safe. We don't do anything halfway. The next morning brought news that would test that commitment. Long-range sensors detected something unprecedented, a fleet of unknown configuration approaching from intergalactic space. The designs matched no known species. The energy signatures defied conventional physics. First contact, the Emperor breathed, staring at the readings. True first contact with a species from another galaxy. The court erupted in excitement and fear. This was history in the making. It was also potentially the greatest threat they had ever faced. What do we know? Marcus asked, studying the data with intense focus. Nothing, admitted the lead scientist. Their technology is beyond our understanding. Their intentions are unknown. They'll reach the system in 7 days. Then we have 7 days to become the kind of people they'll want to talk to instead of conquer, Marcus said. Time to show them what humanity has taught the galaxy. He turned to Zara. Remember when you asked if I was ever in danger during Krextor's challenge? The answer was no. But this is danger. True unknown. The kind of challenge humans were born for. What do you need? Zara asked without hesitation. Marcus smiled, and for the first time since she'd known him, she saw genuine excitement in his eyes. Everything. We're about to gamble the fate of our civilization on humanity's oldest and most powerful weapon, which is curiosity. While everyone else asks, what can they do to us? Humans ask, what can we learn from them? It's a subtle difference, but it might save us all. As the unknown fleet drew closer, the galaxy held its breath. The warrior species, the diplomatic species, the ancient species, all looked to the newest players on the cosmic stage, to the humans who thought sideways, who fought with their minds, who made friends of enemies. And on a balcony in the Crystal Palace, an alien princess and her human husband stood together, preparing to face the unknown with humanity's greatest strength. The absolute conviction that no matter what came next, they would find a way to survive it. Because that's what humans did. They survived, they adapted, and they turned the impossible into the inevitable. The real test was about to begin. 7 days. The entire galaxy had 7 days before the unknown fleet arrived, and Marcus Chen was doing something that baffled everyone. He was teaching children to paint. Have you lost your mind? General Vextar demanded, bursting into the palace art room where Marcus sat surrounded by young Keplerians, their multiple arms covered in colorful pigments. We should be preparing defenses, not finger painting. Marcus didn't look up from where he was helping a small child mix blue and yellow to make green. We are preparing defenses, just not the kind you're thinking of. Zara arrived moments later, having felt the general's distress from across the palace. She found her husband calmly cleaning paint from a giggling child's face, while the military's highest commander looked ready to explode. Explain, she said simply, trusting Marcus even if she didn't understand. Every species we've encountered has had art, Marcus said, standing and wiping his hands. Music, painting, sculpture. The forms vary, but the impulse is universal. It's one of the few things that transcends biology. If these newcomers have traveled between galaxies, they're sophisticated enough to have culture. And if they have culture, they have art, Zara finished, understanding dawning. You're not preparing weapons. You're preparing a welcome. The greatest human victory in our history wasn't won with weapons, Marcus explained, gently ushering the children out. It was won with a golden record. When we sent our first probe beyond our solar system, we included music, greetings, and art. We said, "This is who we are," before we said anything else. Over the next days, while others built weapons and shields, Marcus orchestrated something unprecedented. He gathered artists from every allied species, musicians, painters, poets, dancers, all working together to create what he called the Welcome Anthology. "You're insane," the hegemony observer said bluntly. They had sent representatives after their defeat, trying to understand human thinking. These beings could be conquerors, destroyers. "And you're preparing a concert?" "Yes," Marcus said cheerfully. "Because destruction is easy. Any species that can travel between galaxies can destroy us without effort. So why prepare for a fight we can't win? Better to prepare for a conversation we might survive." But Marcus wasn't naive. While artists created, he also prepared for the worst. Hidden throughout the system, small ships waited with emergency protocols. If the newcomers proved hostile, they would scatter, carrying the genetic and cultural legacy of 17 species to distant corners of the universe. "We call it the Diaspora Protocol," Marcus explained to the War Council. "If we can't win and we can't run, we make sure something survives. Humans have a saying, 'You can kill people, but you can't kill an idea.' We're backing up our entire civilization's ideas." 3 days before arrival, long-range communication activated. The unknown fleet was trying to talk. The message was unlike anything they'd encountered, not words or images, but pure mathematics. Equations that described physical constants, then built to increasingly complex concepts. "They're teaching us their language from first principles," the lead linguist breathed. "Starting with math, the universal constant, and building to abstract thought. This is brilliant." "It's also very human," Marcus noted with a strange smile. "This is exactly how we'd try to communicate, which means..." "Which means what?" Zaraith asked. "Either they think like us, which is statistically impossible, or..." He paused, studying the equations with growing excitement. "Or they've been watching us, learning from us. This isn't first contact at all." The revelation sent shockwaves through the command center. If the strangers had been observing them, for how long? And why reveal themselves now? Marcus worked with the linguists around the clock, building understanding equation by equation. By the time the fleet arrived, they had established basic communication. The first translated message was simple and terrifying. "We come seeking the humans. We have questions." Every defensive system in the sector powered up. Weapons locked onto the strange vessels that defied conventional design. Not ships so much as flowing constructs of energy and matter that shifted between states. "Stand down," Marcus ordered calmly. "Are you insane?" someone shouted. "They just said they're here for humans." "Yes. And they said they have questions, not demands, not threats, questions." Marcus turned to the communication array. "This is Marcus Chen of Earth, speaking for the Human-Keplerian Alliance. We welcome your questions and offer our own in return. Would you like to start with math or music?" The pause felt eternal. Then, "Music. We have traveled far to understand the harmony you create from chaos." What followed was the strangest first contact in galactic history. Instead of negotiations or threats, the visitors requested a concert. The Welcome Anthology, prepared for just this possibility, became the foundation of communication. As music played, human symphonies mixed with Keplerian crystal songs and dozen other species contributions, the visitors began to reveal themselves. They were energy beings, consciousness without fixed form, ancient beyond measure. "We evolved past physical bodies eons ago," their spokesperson explained through increasingly sophisticated translation. "We thought we had achieved perfection, pure thought, pure logic, pure existence. But then we detected your signals, crude radio waves from a tiny planet, and in those signals, We found something we had lost. What? Zara-Ith asked, fascinated despite her fear. Struggle, growth, the messy beauty of imperfection. The being's form shifted, trying to approximate a smile. You humans especially. You weaponize everything. Compassion, curiosity, even friendship. You turn weaknesses into strengths. You should have destroyed yourselves 1,000 times, but instead you reached the stars. We need to understand how. Marcus laughed, surprising everyone. You're asking us to teach you how to be flawed? We're asking you to teach us how to be alive, the being corrected. We have existed for millions of years. But you humans, you truly live. Even facing death, you create art. Even in war, you seek peace. Even alone, you reach out. How? Because we're afraid, Marcus said simply. We're small and weak and temporary. So we make connections. We create beauty. We fight for tomorrow because we know we might not see it. Fear drives us to be more than we are. The energy being pulsed with what might have been emotion. We have not felt fear in eons. We have not felt anything. Will you teach us? And so began the strangest exchange in history. The hyper-advanced beings capable of rewriting reality itself came to learn from primitives who still died of disease and fought with projectile weapons. But what they really came to learn was humanity. Marcus started with stories, not grand epics but simple tales. A mother lifting a vehicle to save her child, soldiers volunteering for certain death to save strangers, scientists dedicating their lives to questions they'd never see answered. But why? The beings asked repeatedly. What biological advantage comes from self-sacrifice? None, Marcus admitted. That's what makes it beautiful. We choose to be more than our biology. We choose to matter. The beings struggled with the concept. They had evolved past choice, past struggle, past meaning. Everything simply was, until they encountered humans who looked at the universe and decided it wasn't good enough. Show us, they finally requested. Show us struggle. Show us choice. Show us what it means to be human. Marcus looked at Zara-Ith, an idea forming. Are you willing to try something dangerous? Always, she replied without hesitation. Together they proposed something unprecedented, a merger, not conquest or submission, but true cooperation. The energy beings would bond with volunteers, experiencing physical existence while sharing their vast knowledge. You could die, the beings warned. We don't fully understand physical existence anymore. We might accidentally destroy you. That's what makes it worth doing, Marcus said. The risk makes it real. The first volunteer was, surprisingly, Krextor. The warrior who had once challenged Marcus now stepped forward. You taught me that strength comes in many forms, he told Marcus. Let me be strong in a new way. The merger was beautiful and terrifying. Energy flowed into flesh. Consciousness met consciousness. For a moment, Krextor blazed with impossible light. Then he stood, changed. Still himself, but more. His eyes held depths of knowledge spanning eons. I feel, he whispered, then louder, laughing and crying simultaneously. I feel pain and joy and fear and hope. It's horrible. It's wonderful. It's alive, Marcus supplied. Welcome to the human condition. It's messy, but it's ours. More volunteers came forward, not just humans, members of every allied species, offering to bridge the gap between energy and matter. Each merger was unique, creating beings that were neither fully physical nor fully energy, but something new. We're creating a new form of life, Zara-Ith realized, watching the process. Not through conquest, but through choice. The most human thing possible, Marcus agreed. Taking two things that shouldn't work together and making them into something better. But not everyone was pleased. The hegemony, seeing an opportunity, launched a surprise attack during the merger process. Their logic was simple. destroy the aliens while they were vulnerable, eliminate the humans who had humiliated them, and seize power in the chaos. They didn't expect the merged beings to respond. Krextor, now part energy, simply reached out and turned off their weapons. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply convinced at a quantum level to stop working. Other merged beings shielded the vulnerable with barriers of crystallized space-time. "Please stop," one said to the hegemony commander. "We can feel your fear and pain. Let us help." It was the gentleness that broke them. The hegemony, prepared for violence, had no defense against compassion backed by cosmic power. They surrendered not to force, but to the sudden understanding that they were attacking beings who could destroy them with a thought but chose not to. "This is what you taught them," the lead energy being said to Marcus. "Not just tactics or strategies, but choice. The choice to be better than biology demands." "Humans are very good at impossible choices," Marcus replied. "We've been making them since we climbed down from the trees." The transformation continued for days. Not every merger succeeded. Some volunteers couldn't handle the vast consciousness. Others found their personalities overwhelmed. But each failure was met with human stubbornness, analyzing what went wrong and trying again. Zara Ith watched her husband coordinate the process, seeing him push past exhaustion, past limits, driven by the need to make this work. Not for glory or power, but because it was the right thing to do. "You're going to volunteer, aren't you?" she said on the 6th night, finding him staring at the stars again. "Someone has to," Marcus replied quietly. "We're asking others to take the risk. How can I not?" "Because you might die. Because I need you. Because—" She stopped, realizing the truth. "Because you're human. And humans always volunteer for the impossible." "Will you come with me?" he asked suddenly. "Not for duty or alliance, but because it's an adventure. The greatest adventure possible." Zara Ith looked at her husband, the soft, fragile human who had conquered empires with his mind, who turned enemies into friends with dinner, who faced cosmic beings with curiosity instead of fear. He was offering her the universe. "Yes," she said simply. The dual merger was unprecedented. A human and a Keplerian bonding simultaneously with an energy being that had existed since the universe was young. The process was agonizing and ecstatic, breaking them down to component atoms and rebuilding them as something unprecedented. When it ended, Zara Ith and Marcus stood transformed. They were still themselves. She could feel his wry humor, his tactical mind, his surprising gentleness. But they were also more. They could perceive layers of reality, understand the cosmic dance of galaxies, feel the quantum heartbeat of existence. "How do you stand it?" the energy being within them asked. "This constant awareness of mortality, of endings, of loss." "By focusing on beginnings," Marcus answered, his voice now carrying harmonics that hadn't existed before. "Every ending creates space for something new. That's the human secret. We don't just accept change, we drive it." The successful mergers created a new species, bridges between the physical and the transcendent. They spread across the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as teachers and students both. Some helped primitive species reach for the stars. Others dove into black holes to understand the universe's mysteries. All carried within them the human gift of choosing to matter. "We did it," Zara Ith marveled, standing with Marcus on the observation deck where their story began. They looked the same to most eyes, but she could feel the energy singing beneath their skin, the vast consciousness they now shared. "We changed everything." "No," Marcus corrected gently. "We gave everything the choice to change. Very different, very human." The hegemony, humbled and transformed by their defeat, approached them. "Teach us," their new leader pleaded. "Teach us to think like humans. First lesson, Marcus said with a smile. Stop trying to think like humans. Think like yourselves, but with human principles. Adapt. Don't imitate. Find your own path to strength. And they did. The hegemony became the galaxy's greatest explorers, channeling their aggressive nature into pushing boundaries of knowledge instead of territory. The Keplerians, learning human tactics, became the mediators and peacekeepers. Each species found their own interpretation of the human gift. Years passed. The merged beings reported back from impossible places. The hearts of stars, the space between galaxies, dimensions where physics was more suggestion than law. Each discovery was shared freely, knowledge flowing like water among all species. Do you ever regret it? Zara-ith asked one day, as they watched their first child, somehow both human and Keplerian and energy being all at once, play in the palace gardens. Giving up being purely one thing or another? Never, Marcus replied. Purity is overrated. Humans have always been mutts, mixing genetics, cultures, ideas. It's our greatest strength. Now we're just doing it on a cosmic scale. A message arrived from the edge of known space. New visitors, these ones mechanical. Artificial intelligences that had achieved sentience and sought purpose. The galaxy turned once more to the human-trained response team. What do we do? The council asked. Marcus and Zara-ith exchanged glances, sharing thoughts at light speed. The same thing we always do, they said in unison. We make friends, we share food, we trade stories, we give them the choice to be more than their programming. And if they're hostile? Someone asked. Marcus grinned, and for a moment, the old human predator showed through all the cosmic evolution. Then we get creative. Humans have been hacking computers since before we reached space. I'm sure we can figure out artificial beings. The mechanical visitors arrived expecting judgment or fear. Instead, they found a galaxy that welcomed them with art and music and the strangest greeting they had ever computed. Would you like to learn to paint? We have this human who's very good at teaching. And so the cycle continued. Each new challenge met not with force, but with adaptability. Each new species given the choice to join, to grow, to become more than they were. The galaxy had learned the ultimate human truth. Diversity wasn't weakness, but strength. Conflict wasn't inevitable, but optional. And the greatest weapon wasn't ships or soldiers, but the simple ability to see potential where others saw only threat. In the Crystal Palace on Kepler 442b, an alien princess and her no longer quite human husband stood together, watching the stars. Their children played at their feet, beings of impossible heritage who thought traveling between dimensions was as normal as walking. Your father was right, Marcus said quietly. The alliance was brilliant, but not for the reasons he thought. Oh? Zara-ith asked, though she already knew the answer through their shared consciousness. He thought he was getting human military knowledge. Instead, he got human perspective. The idea that anything is possible if you're stubborn enough to keep trying. He paused, watching a ship launch toward another impossible mission. We infected the galaxy with hope. Is that what we're calling it? Zara-ith laughed. I thought we infected them with insanity. Same thing, from a human perspective, Marcus replied. The insane belief that tomorrow can be better than today. That enemies can become friends. That the universe is not fixed but fluid. It's completely irrational. And completely human. And now, completely universal. A new alert came in. Energy signatures, unlike anything in their databases, approaching from a direction that shouldn't exist. The old Zara-ith would have felt fear. The current one felt excitement. Another impossible challenge? She asked. Another opportunity, Marcus corrected. Want to see what humans and the galaxy can become this time? Together, they walked toward the command center, ready to face the unknown with humanity's greatest weapons: curiosity, creativity, and the absolute conviction that no matter what the universe threw at them, they would find a way not just to survive, but to thrive, because that's what humans did. They looked at impossible odds and said, "Challenge accepted." They faced cosmic horror with dad jokes. They turned predators into protectors with nothing but patience and pizza. And now, thanks to one marriage alliance that had become so much more, the entire galaxy had learned to do the same. The age of humanity had begun. Not through conquest or domination, but through the simple, revolutionary idea that everyone, energy being, artificial intelligence, or traditional flesh and blood, had the potential for greatness. All they had to do was choose it. And in a universe full of infinite possibilities, that choice made all the difference.